think the whole world is annoyed about, our Arab speaking people because, a lot of the people who perpetrate crimes against America, the people that was in 9/11, the people that's doing all the bombing, they are Arab speaking people. So it has been so much coverage from the media on Arabs and on, their licentiousness and their activities in terms of radical Islam, if that's what you want to call it, or radicalism. I think that the people just have fear. And I think that people, because of their fear, they're willing to violate people's civil rights. They're willing to violate people's human rights because they don't understand. And I think, that's some of the things that we as African Americans went through back in the early 1800s when we were first emancipated, through the Emancipation Proclamation allegedly by Abraham Lincoln. I think that we went through a lot of that. I think that the people didn't understand. They felt that being that we were enslaved, that, we would revolt. They was thinking about Nat Turner and Gabriel Prosser, Denmark Vesey, and John Horse, who were all, guys who revolted and, tried to kill, and did kill a lot of white people, and that created a stigma in our society, and that's why I was telling you about the different laws that were enacted, the law of 1710, where, it basically, made it where, if anybody seen anybody acting crazy, they was told to snitch. They had the law, during slavery in the early 1600s, the Slave Act, where they, told slaves, if you work with us and if you, snitch on other slaves, so people became annoyed and people became suspicious. We were like terrorists, so we went through a lot of discrimination. We went through a lot of, mistreatment. And I think that's what the brothers, in the Arab communities are going through right now. It's just the fear, phobia, and people, a lot of times, especially, in certain societies, when they fear something, they discriminate against it. They treat them unjustly, what I mean? And they violate all the rules of the land, of their land. The gloves is taken off. And they say, okay, well, this means this and that means this and yada, yada, yada. And, you begin to see different things go in a different direction. And I think that's what it is. I think it's primarily more so than it is, the guy speaking Arabic. It's just phobia, it's fear. It's just a lot of people fear because they know that these people, in particular, Arab people have the capacity and the ability to kill and don't mind dying.
Yeah.
And, the fact that you got somebody on the plane that looks like somebody that blew up a plane and killed themselves, and didn't mind dying and believe that they go into paradise if they do that, I think that's enough, to shake people up. And I think that's what it was. The people were just shaking up, because they felt, threatened because they didn't understand the language, and even when we were, going through our little situation, if we say certain things and they would call another slave, in the room and they asked them, interpret what that boy just said. If we sung certain songs, and they thought there was codes in the songs, and that's why you had so many revolts. And they were talking about the Underground Railroad, even Underground Railroad, they thought that Africans were running from, the South to Canada.
Yeah.
That's too far to go. You had to go all up north to do that, and take risks. They weren't running into Canada. They was running into Florida because Florida was a inhabited land at that time, and when nobody down there but the Indians. So a lot of the, the brothers, that's where they ran.
Yeah.
They ran to Florida, and they would, one of the guys that lived down there was the guy I was telling you about named John Horse. John Horse, he did a whole lot. You think Martin Luther King was something, boy, that man was something tough. John Horse was putting it in. He was putting in work. He was trying to save as many black folks as he can. They was all running to Florida because in Florida you had the Hispanics. You had it was Latin. A lot of Latin people. And they intermingle with the black people. That's why you see a lot of interracial babies and a lot of black babies down in the Caribbeans and Florida, because Florida was considered part of the Caribbean at one time. It was Hispanic territory, and eventually, they found out that the slaves wasn't running. The Underground Railroad wasn't going into Canada, but it was actually going into Florida, and that's why they sent General Jackson down there, and that's why he got Jacksonville, Florida, which is where Florida literally begins. You know what I'm saying? If you just look at it, from that perspective, you got South Carolina, then it's Jacksonville, Florida. Or you go through Savannah, Jackson. I mean, just it's Jacksonville, Florida, and then all up and through there, you know what I'm saying? They had wars. It was John Horse and an Indian by the name of Wildcat. Them dudes was putting in some work. But that they was considered terrorists at that time. Yeah. So you know what I mean? People feared black folks like that. You know what I mean? Because white folks was getting their heads cut off. It was a whole bunch of stuff. All you gotta do is go see the movie Nat Turner. His slave revolt. You could see what was going on. You could see how people were putting down demonstrations and was being very violent. And that's if you just a society, or if you're a society that was an oppressive society, you was oppressing people, you'll be scared to death too, So I think it's a couple of being scared and paranoid, So, I mean, it's just a lot of discrimination, a lot of fear going on in the country right now. It's a lot of dissension, and, only thing I can say, man, is that, people just have to be vigilant, and people have to be smart. You got to understand, no matter where you go, you're going to run into haters, you know what I'm saying? And, I don't think the haters going to stop with just one group.
Too cool to come 24/7.